first of all, yeah, thank you everyone for spending your afternoon with us. It is greatly appreciated, and we'll kick off the event. It's first of a cocktail event, and we did a couple of webinars before, but cocktails, we thought we'd give it a call, we give it a shot. Summer's coming up, so yeah. So we're kicking off today, and the primary focus really is at the back of, ironically, logistics and transportation and warehousing. It's we thought it's prudent to, I guess, just have a quick look on the what's prevalent in that industry, specifically around warehouses and logistics side of things, focusing predominantly on wireless. And I promise we will keep it. We we had a few events that we joined in the past, and the feedback was it was too much on the tech side and less on the cocktail side, or on the drinking side. So we promised to make this a bit more succinct on the cocktail, no more than 15-20 minutes on the technical overview, because the whole idea is if you do find some of the things interesting, or you need more information, or have a lot of other questions, we're more than happy to sort of do a deep dive directly, individually, on a one-to-one basis. So yeah, I guess welcome on board to the warehouse networking top tips and more importantly, cocktails masterclass. And I will kick off to the next slide. So tonight's lineup, hello and welcome from us, from Natilik, and then we'll hand over to Cisco, Andrew, specifically around the the trends and what we're seeing in the market, and also to Abby George, who is from Comsto, to outline a little bit, if you want to deep dive more on the Catalyst side of things and the Wi-Fi 6 hardware perspective. And then, as I said, we will keep it pretty succinct, 15, maybe 20 minutes tops, and then we'll hand over to the Vice team, Momentum team, for a bit of summer sips and cocktail making, which I am really actually looking forward to. So a great pack received today, and apologies to the ones who hasn't received yet. We have been tracking them. I think there's a couple that haven't yet, and appreciate you joining regardless. So it is, we promise to make it up and maybe do a live one somewhere if it doesn't turn up in time. I guess from our perspective, I'm really sorry about the photo. We look proper gangster on this one. Our marketing, I think, picked our Christmas photo from last year, which is interesting. So, from myself, I'm Rob Akerster. I look after the sales side of Natilik across Asia Pac. And with me, which I'm going to hand over shortly, is David Fox, who is our solutions architect / also a solutions engineer for Natilik Asia Pacific. And that's us from the Natilik side. And then just before we go on, just a really quick on Natilik. I promise just 2 slides. This is usually a 20-slide deck. We condense it into 2. I guess the long and short of the numbers you see in the screen is we are an award-winning multinational companies that are heavily focused, obviously, on Cisco side of things. I'd say we are 90% Cisco, and I'll touch on the key technologies we operate in that space, and also touch on a little bit on who the ecosystem partners we work with that complement the Cisco environment. So our global, I guess, footprint from a centers of excellence is Sydney for the whole of Asia Pac. So all our engineering team are based here in Sydney, covering anything from India eastwards all the way down to New Zealand from our side, and then London, obviously the mothership, and then our New York office covers the Americas region, which is also actually where our Follow the Sun service desk and NOC engineering teams sit. As I said, we are award-winning global, so around 38 Cisco awards in the last 4 years, and that extends from enterprise networking, collaboration, DC, and security awards that we've won across the board there. And I think of late we also won the global marketing win from Cisco's awards ceremony last week. We are not that big. We're kind of big enough to matter, and small enough to be nimble and to care. And we kind of guise ourselves as a confident guide to your digital transformation. And I'll just touch on the key technologies because I think it's relevant. So, and those are the key 8 technology areas that we focus on as Natilik. So I won't deep dive or dwell on that. Obviously, in our scenario for today, we're going to be focusing on networking, but outside of that, we do security, and everything we design from a solution perspective, we always have security in mind. So I just want to bring up that, look, if there is some other solutions that are relevant, we not only do networking, we also do hybrid cloud, DC, collab, and also contact centers. And that's Natilik in a nutshell, probably the quickest intro to Natilik I've ever done in my tenure here. And I'll hand over to Dave Fox, just to have a quick talk really in the next couple of slides on the trends and solutions we're seeing in the warehousing and logistics space.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. So yeah, obviously we're seeing a big shift in the number of devices that are connected to the network. We're seeing automation of devices. So traditionally, we would just be seeing the barcode scanners in warehouses connecting to the Wi-Fi for inventory management. These days, that's all being sort of simplified and automated. So we are seeing a lot more devices. Your average person in the warehouse probably carries 2 or 3 wireless devices, where traditionally they would only have 1. And obviously, it's a much varied device types as well. So it's not just your barcode scanners, not just your inventory management tools. There's multitudes of device types out there, and obviously these warehouses, they're not running autonomously. There's companies out there that manage global warehouses. So then it's the management of that. So the remote IT teams. So you're looking at sort of, I mean, from a Cisco perspective, we've obviously got the Cisco range of Wi-Fi. We've also got the Meraki, where Cisco purchased. Both of those, Meraki obviously natively cloud managed, but the Cisco, you've got the option there for DNA Center. You can have your global management of your devices through that single pane of glass, just to make life easier, basically, for the management of these now getting complex environments. So if you want to just move along there, Rob.
Certainly.
So what we look to do here, so Natilik are there just to complement the Cisco portfolio. Cisco obviously make all these extremely valuable devices for implementing the infrastructure around these environments. The way that Natilik fit in there, so we've got global coverage. We can wrap around the services around these complex deployments. And one of the key tools here is the wireless surveys. So warehouses, industrial places, mining environments, even your average day office, there's basically like everything there is trying to block that Wi-Fi signal. So what we look to do first of all is there's product set called Ekahau that make basically the market leading Wi-Fi analytics tools. Cisco actually use Ekahau themselves when they're actually drawing out the coverage zone of their access points. So what we do is we'll actually go in, we'll take a blueprint of the environment, the floor plan of the building that we're looking to cover, and we'll import that into the Ekahau software, and we'll actually then be able to look at what's going to be blocking the signals. We can map out the coverage zones, plan the radio frequency mapping in that environment, and then essentially be able to guide you as to where the best placements are of your access points, the most recommended antennas to go with those access points, so that you're getting this high coverage that you need. You need the devices to be able to stay connected. When you're doing your inventory management in these warehouses, you need to be able to know that that signal is getting back to your central server, and you basically need failover as well. So essentially, we can sort of make the design so that there's multiple APs listening out for each device, so that if you should have a failure, you can still get coverage, still be able to continue and basically run BAU. On top of that, remote troubleshooting. So the Ekahau software, it can actually integrate with DNA Center as well. It can give you sort of not just that initial scope and look at where the predictive survey can be. We can also do the walkthrough survey, so we can actually then go through, measure the levels, look at the spectrum analysis, look at your radio frequency levels, baseline the background noise, and just ensure that the deployment that's gone in there is actually fit for purpose and delivering that network coverage that you require. And that can be, as I mentioned, plugged into DNA Center, and then actually ongoing, it can then keep monitoring the network and looking out for trouble. And then on back of that, so IoT is obviously a big thing now in warehouse spaces. I'm probably going to be handing off to Andrew to go into more detail on that, because that's where he specializes. So what I might just do at this point is basically give a quick intro to Andrew and then pass across. And Andrew joins us from West Australia today, and he's basically specialist in the Wi-Fi space and IoT. And over to you, Andrew.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Yeah, so look, Andrew Johnston, I'm working in the OT and IoT areas within Cisco. So, we think about manufacturing, warehousing, supply chain. We're generally providing a lot of the products that are going to be rugged enough for some of those environments, in addition to all of the enterprise products that are also fit for purpose. So let's chug on to the next slide, please. So I think one of the most important things about connectivity these days in manufacturing and warehousing environments is the fact that most of the connectivity is going to be wireless in nature. Now, at Cisco, we're not religious about what type of wireless people use, but what we will say is the use case will often depend on the kind of deployment and whether you've got CapEx or OpEx kind of concerns in that area. And also, the resiliency and the mission critical nature of that communication too, and whether it's inside or outside. I think David mentioned that we're talking about a lot of hostile RF environments, and it's pretty key that you need the right partner like Natilik to provide the RF surveys and planning to make sure you've got a successful deployment, because ultimately wireless has become an absolutely required technology instead of something that's ad hoc. And it's certainly integral to the business outcome. So even in the warehousing area where, for instance, you might have some robotic elements or guided elements, I think it's very important that these things stay connected and they have resilient connectivity as well. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Yep.
So what I wanted to do is really cover, one of the integral technologies that's really relevant in factory environments. Wi-Fi 6 is a superb evolution of the Wi-Fi standard. Not only does it finesse things in terms of creating a better secure environment, more throughput and things like that, it's also an evolution in technology. If you think about wireless as it was, it's like everybody's in the room, some of them trying to talk at the same time. So people have to wait for other people to stop talking before they can then start their conversation. When we look at Wi-Fi 6, it's more like a traffic controller in an airport. It's dictating who gets to talk in what time slot. So it means that you get improved capacity and throughput, and more things can connect at the same time, because it's not a melange of things trying to get onto your environment. It's actually people being scheduled to talk in their time slot. So people get better latency because they don't have to back off or error correct so much. They don't necessarily get as much interference. And the power efficiency of the clients, which might be automated, is much better because they don't have to be listening all of the time. They just have to be listening and transmitting in their time slot. So it represents something that's going to scale up much better in terms of digitized outcomes for manufacturing and for factories. And it also means that it's going to give better guarantees of bandwidth for those mission critical applications that you're running in the environment, as well as being backwards compatible with older technology sets. So it's a win-win kind of scenario. Next slide, please. And we've got another intriguing option here. Cisco have got a solution called Cisco Ultra Reliable Wireless Backhaul. It's a mouthful, but literally for us, we say, look, if the object is moving, this is what we use to connect it. So we see this kind of technology used a lot in autonomous mining, a lot in ports, for instance, in freight terminals, and also in manufacturing and industrial situations where you've got robotic elements that might be moving in 3 dimensions. This technology is kind of like a finesse of Wi-Fi, where it's designed for make before break kind of connectivity. So as something roams, it's going to make a connection before it breaks its old one and maintain continuity of data. It also caters to the really stringent latency requirements in industrial environments. So generally, when something's roaming or failing over, we want it to happen within 100 milliseconds, especially when we're talking about robotic, autonomous devices, which might, for instance, have OH&S concerns with people in the environment. They need to be connected all the time. This technology is also good for those satellite facilities and offices where we can very easily build something that's equivalent to fiber without being intrusive or invasive in any way. And this can carry the richness of the logical topology that was on one end of the link all the way through in a transparent fashion. So again, like we're seeing this used quite a lot in conjunction with Wi-Fi and other technologies. Next slide, please. Look, I don't think things would be complete if we didn't also discuss 5G. 5G and Wi-Fi 6 share a lot of the capabilities in common, such as that more deterministic kind of connectivity for each client. One of the things that they've done in 5G as well is make it more fit for purpose for factory and manufacturing kind of applications where they're meeting the stringent sort of like latency requirements, being able to connect the greater and greater diversity and number of wireless clients that are actually hitting that more and more digitized environment. And then also, looking at the ability to cater to more bandwidth, just like we're doing for Wi-Fi 6. So we would basically say this technology, great outside and in the mobile fleet, that's maybe traveling kilometers away from your factory and manufacturing locations. And it's really a complement to what we're achieving with Wi-Fi 6. So those are mostly the three options where we talk about data throughput and connectivity. Now, when we talk about greater and greater levels of digitized visibility of manufacturing and warehouse environments, we're moving to another technology. So could we move on to the next slide, please? So what we wanted to introduce here is a low frequency, high kind of range technology called LoRaWAN. Now, a single gateway, for instance, could cover potentially an entire factory, or if it was external, it could cover maybe 10 to 20 kilometers beyond itself in a radius. Now, this kind of solution is designed to provide the ability to implant sensors all the way through your environment without being invasive and without having to plumb comms or electricity into those environments, because a lot of these sensors are battery powered and they're designed to have an operational life of, say, 2 to 5 years in the field. So they're kind of set and forget, but they suddenly give you much greater telemetry and much greater visibility of your environment in total. Could I go to the next slide? So these are the kind of operational outcomes that we're looking at for this type of technology. You'd have a gateway implanted in the environment that might be just backhauled straight to a switch or backhauled to 5G or Wi-Fi. It would then give you the ability to get greater telemetry on all of these aspects. So A, you could get greater efficiencies. B, you can track maybe high value or semi-mobile assets and know where they are when you need them. It can also obviously go into that outdoor kind of warehousing area as well. If somebody had more sort of rugged requirements outdoor, and you can track things, like I said, maybe 2 to 10 kilometers away in an industrial environment, without having to basically go to an OpEx model of using 5G based sensors, which also come along with subscriptions and additional requirements, for OpEx expenditure. This is an all-in-one kind of solution, but more importantly, what Cisco do is we then provide a subscription service where you can actually track all of this stuff and get visibility of it, and then actually start understanding what the trends are in maybe the temperature or humidity in the environment, the use of lighting, where your assets are and how they're moving around the environment, and then also be able to geofence those assets so that you can actually stay in control of them, know where they are, and in a just-in-time fashion actually get hold of them when you need them. Massive applications for this kind of technology. We're certainly seeing it in a lot of extended OT envelopes. So it could be, radiuses of 25 by 25 kilometers in maybe port environments, or extended kind of manufacturing and warehousing environments too. So we've got a good example here. Could I show you the next one too, please? So our next example is really around those kind of cold storage areas too, where again, we can, and this could be pharmaceuticals, it could be perishable goods, it can be maybe processes that require refrigeration. We actually pack up these sensors that can just be, basically stuck to individual or existing kit without any intrusive or invasive measures, and get a massive and instant realization of value and greater visibility of what's occurring in that environment. So for instance, you could set temperature and humidity sensors within a refrigerated environment and alert when something is going out of spec, or basically get an understanding of how those doors are opening and closing in that facility so that you can start optimizing, your costs in that area. Next slide, please. So look, all of this is backed up by a massive OT ruggedized portfolio that Cisco provide. One of the great things about this portfolio of ruggedized gear is that it's also inclusive of all of those enterprise capabilities that people are used to in Cisco product. So if somebody's got the skill set to actually implement in an enterprise environment, they've now got the skill set to extend that enterprise into the OT area and basically, you know, call on a massive global body of knowledge on how to configure, how to troubleshoot, how to architect these environments and put them together. So at this point, I'll hand over to Abby to talk about relevant product for warehousing.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And yeah, Abby, over to you, fella. Just on focusing on Wi-Fi 6, obviously access points, but yes.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Anthony. So, yeah. So, what I really wanted to cover is mainly about you know, some of the latest innovation that Cisco has brought into the wireless environment, especially with the feature or capability of Wi-Fi 6. Right. So what you see is that if you really see, it covers the massive use cases. You know, especially for the, you know, the use case that we're talking about, the warehousing specific use cases, or even any other enterprise use cases, right? So if you really see in the picture here, we have various range of access points available, starting from, you know, 9105 series, which is essentially for teleworkers and hotel and you know, environment, and we also have for enterprise environments. And if you really see towards the right, we see 9120 and 9130 access points for a high capacity requirements. So all are actually supporting Wi-Fi 6. And the new addition to that portfolio is outdoor Wi-Fi 6 access points, which is 9124 series. Right? So now 9124 series is a ruggedized access point suitable for, you know, little rough areas, you know, ruggedized where the environments where you require ruggedized access points. So in terms of the deployments, when you deploy, there are flexible deployment options available for this access points. You know, traditionally, as you see, there are wireless access points deployed with the controllers. So we have new Catalyst 9800 wireless LAN controllers available. If you have large number of wireless access points deployed in your environment, you obviously can use a dedicated controller. Now, another innovation here is embedded wireless LAN controller. So which means that you have an embedded wireless LAN controller within an access point itself. So one of the access point in your network will be able to act as a controller as well. So that particular access point is going to act as a controller as well as an access point. So now, and this is a very, you know, optimal use case for a smaller deployments, up to 100 access points in your network. So the beauty of this is you have all the features and flexibility of your dedicated controllers available in this deployment as well, because the same code, same Catalyst 9800 wireless LAN controller code is going to run on this embedded wireless LAN controller. And we also have another deployments where you can run the wireless LAN controller on the Catalyst switch itself. So now, if you have a bit more larger deployments where you don't really want a dedicated wireless LAN controller, you can run the controller code in the Catalyst switch itself. This is another, you know, easy investment protection that you know, you can have when you're deploying the wireless. And there are a lot of things about you know, industrial wireless as well as warehouse wireless deployments to be considered. But you know, as we indicated before, like, we have controllers available, various antenna options available in order to meet your requirements in terms of density as well as the coverages, right? And yeah, that's all I wanted to cover as part of the wireless Wi-Fi 6 portfolio in the enterprise segment.